So at that time, when I started the business, there was an awakening kind of moment, a realization. It hit me big, but I'm reading hundreds of these books, and going through Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard, I'm going through Sam Walton, I'm going through all these greats, and I'm listening to some of the things they're saying, some of the ways they're thinking, and all I'm thinking is, oh my God, they think like me, they're just like me, they're normal people, they're just like me. And that was kind of the first awakening realization to say, they're not superhuman. And I don't know if I was making it up in my head or not, but that gave me the confidence. Now, building the business and believing in the future and all that stuff, I don't know what it was. It was just, I'd never thought there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's none of that thinking ever. It's never about the money. It was just some burning thing inside me that just, I need to do this. Yeah, I was just driven to do this. I felt like it was just, this is what I'm meant to do.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast, where every week we hear an amazing story from a serious founder who built a valuable software company and did it without big funding. I'm your host, Greg Head, and this week my guest is Dan McDonald, the CEO and co-founder of Biz Safety Software, based in Edmonton in Alberta in Canada. It's over 25 million Canadian revenue software company. And he's been in business 20 years. He's had an exciting journey with no outside investors. He's kind of headed in that direction with some partial exit thinking. It's an amazing story of his the pivots and the journeys and the sacrifice. It's a millionaire next door story, meaning he's a frugal guy, and his family didn't live large as they built up this company. But now it's a large company with nearly 200 employees. And a less than 1% churn rate by company in the business. And it's an amazing company. And he's got a lot of lessons. He's an avid reader and a student of leadership and the software game. Lots to share here. Hey, Dan, welcome to the Practical Founders Podcast.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, I'm curious to dig in even more to your story. You recently joined one of my Practical Founders peer groups for founders of 10 to 20 million ARR, SaaS and up, who are growing their businesses and have stayed off the VC funding. So I know you a little bit, and I'm getting to know you better. And every time we talk, I learn something amazing about what you've built, BIS, and yourself. It's amazing here. We were just talking. You're up in Edmonton area these days. Up in Canada.
Yeah, quite cold.
And how are things up there? Is it the depths of snow in winter and hockey and the whole thing?
Yeah, it's an incredible amount of snow. Must be 3-4 feet the last week, and temperatures minus 20.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that would convert to in Fahrenheit.
Yes, well, the Great White North up there. I spent a lot of time in Park City, Utah, and they are almost snowless. So somebody's getting all the snow. So I'm glad to hear you've got it up there at Banff and Lake Louise and all the rest of that. So awesome. And you've got an amazing software company, BIS Safety Software. Let's just start with where you are right now with that company. What is BIS and who's it for? And we'll talk about how big it is and employees and all that kind of thing. Where is it today?
Yeah, no, sounds good. BIS stands for Business Intelligence for Safety. We've been around for 19 years, coming up on our 20-year anniversary in February here, so pretty quick. Company, we're just kind of finishing our year end in February as well. So we'll finish the year end around 25 million Canadian in revenue.
Yeah.
And, next year we'll probably be closer to 30 million in revenue. And then there's about 200 people on the team. We have a huge amount in this office here. There's 25,000 square feet in this building here. And there's about 70 team members here. There's 70 team members in India between two offices there, or 3 offices there. And then there's a handful of people in the Philippines and Ontario and BC, throughout Canada, India, whereabouts.
Do you have any employees in the U.S.?
Actually, no. We had 10, 12 down there, and no, it wasn't working out. So so we kept the team focused here in Canada, and it didn't work out in the U.S. for us.
Yeah, no worries. What does your software do, and who uses it?
So it's a safety management platform. So it basically is a safety and compliance. It's similar to Microsoft Word, where it's empty when you get it,
Yeah.
but
Uh-huh.
it's a full learning management, safety management system, policy and procedure. Customers just load up everything when they get it. Mostly high risk, anything high risk where you're physically at risk for your job. So we have a ton of large transportation companies, construction companies, mining companies, oil
Mining.
and
Yes.
gas companies, nuclear companies. Anything like
Yeah.
that that's high risk, that's exactly our business, our ideal customer.
So there is a compliance part of it, meaning if you're in the mining industry, there's regulations about keeping employees on the front line safe, but companies are very proactive about it. And you don't have this, let's say, a content library. It's not generic content, right? It's this
Oh, we
platform
we
that
do
they fill with their own content. Or do you have content that you
both.
add
Yeah,
in as
yeah,
well?
we do.
Okay,
We do.
great.
We have about 2,000 courses that are
Oh
all
my goodness.
HSC premium, regulated courses, and then we have 26,000 courses that clients uploaded to the system.
My goodness. And a course in a learning management system. So a new employee we're working on a construction project or something, has to go through it. They get a login, maybe do it on their phone. Is it mostly video content or do they do a lot of reading or whatever, presentation type content and learning? It's a learning platform online, I guess, but like what is the typical kind of content?
Yeah, we try to make it more like TV, more what people are used to. So a lot
Oh,
less
right.
reading, a lot more video, and we try to make the courses very interactive. So typically you won't go more than 3 or 4 minutes without getting a question, an activity, something. So it's here's some information, challenge. Here's some
Right.
information, question. Here's some information. Because what we found, if it was straight information, where it was like slides and reading, they would
Yeah.
read the first slide, click next, read, click next, and the next button would just get clicked faster and faster and faster and faster until they get to the end. But if we asked a question right away and they got it wrong, then they'd spend even more time reading, more time listening, more time. So we followed that methodology to make sure
Yeah.
that there is some kind of interaction every few seconds, every few minutes in the content. It just increased because I think we do close to 40,000 online courses every week. So every
Wow.
7 days, there's about 40,000, and they're about an hour, hour and a half each on average.
Wow. That's amazing. So, a learning management system, you log in and you see the courses you need to take next, and it starts to do some interaction and some quizzes and so forth. It tracks which ones you've done. So those are the basics of learning management. What else is there involved in safety in your
Quite
software?
quite a bit. So we started out with just e-learning, right, what you just described there as a small sliver, very small sliver
Ah,
of how people learn on the work site. And we said, okay,
okay.
there's stuff that they did in the past, there's experience they have in the work site, there's coaching, there's this, there's that. So what we wanted to do is expand that as much as we could. So what we built instead of just e-learning is we built a platform that managed all your classroom training, all your coaching, all your instructions,
Ah,
all your competency validation, so that you could take all your previous training, put it on the system, store it, take all the online courses, then go to your classroom courses. Then you'd be set up with some experience where somebody would supervise you, watch you actually operate the equipment, watch you do the task. And because it's not just 5 hours and you're done and you can operate a piece of equipment
yes.
like a crane. You need years of experience, years of
Yeah.
coaching. Like some say it's about 5 years before somebody gets, competent in a boom, side boom.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we try to create as much of that technology as possible. So we went deep on the competency, the coaching, the assessments, the classroom on that side.
Yeah, and would you consider an all-in-one platform? Because it sounds like if it has to do with safety and training, whether it's online or e-learning or whatever, we'll take care of it. I mean, and I guess there's a compliance aspect of this too, and maybe reporting and all that. But do you consider it all-in-one for the safety problem?
Yeah, so there's what's called a taxonomy of safety
Yeah.
software,
Uh-huh.
and that'll
Yeah.
highlight 70, 80 different topics to say,
Wow.
connected work or this, that, and we cover almost 99% of them if you go through the full
Wow.
taxonomy of that. So it's got, there's probably 6,000 modules in terms of the digital forms. There's probably 10 or 15 system modules, including driver management, lone worker technology, policy and procedure management, asset management, equipment management, on and on and on. It goes on, for a long, long bit.
So in 20 years, you built a lot of software, is what you're saying. So there's
Yeah,
a
it's
lot going on. Yeah,
millions of lines of code and
of course.
hundreds and hundreds, probably 600-700 pages of interface pages, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's a massive, massive amount of
Well,
technology.
and I know you're selling to big companies, and do you also sell to small companies that have the same compliance requirements and safety requirements? And I don't know, it goes from small to big, or is it mostly medium and big, or?
Actually, it's probably 60-70% small, under 500 employees,
Yeah.
and then
Uh-huh.
a big chunk in the middle, and then
Yeah.
only 10% unit-wise,
Yeah.
extraordinarily large
Yes.
international companies. But those
Yeah.
companies represent a huge portion of our income because they're so sizable, right? Like our
Yes.
largest client equals 1,972 of our small clients,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that's amazing. And so, I mean, that's quite a span. That's atypical. Usually the enterprise drift up to enterprise and stop serving the small business, but you're spanning across this. And it's not technically a vertical like one industry, it's one space that's very specific in all of these companies. Let's go back to your business here. What is, I guess the deal size ranges from, I don't know, 10,000 a year to hundreds of thousands or something like that? You've got different size deals or yeah.
Smallest deal size is probably 2,500 a year, and
Oh,
largest
okay.
deal size is over 1 million.
Okay. Well, that's quite a span. All right, we'll go through the details there. And you've been doing this for a long time, so we'll hear the story of the how you got there. It wasn't probably a straight line. I know it wasn't there. So, do you have any outside funding in the business that got you to this point?
Zero.
Okay. There you go. It's another way to do it here. So, congratulations. Like do you have like millions of people on the platform
Yeah, that's
yet?
right. 2.5 million, 2.6 almost.
Yeah. And so if you added up the cumulative minutes in the courses or whatever, there's probably billions out of all that. I just had Robin on the podcast, Robin Eisler, who was early in the game building her system, and they just put $40 million of, transactions through their business. And I said, well, Robin, you keep doing this, right? It's going to be billions, right? So keep going here, the compounding game. Very exciting. So congratulations on all of that. Let's just go back to the beginning here. Were you a safety guy and you got into the safety business? How on earth did you get into this corner of this business?
It's a very, very unusual,
It always
very
is. It's a
unusual
little
path.
setup there, of course, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, very, very unusual path. So, yeah, no, for me personally, I worked for a company called The Brick in Canada. It's a
Yeah.
billion-dollar retailer run by an
Yeah.
incredible, leader back then, Bill Comrie, and I was in purchasing. So I was buying electronics like the lower end, computers, laptops,
Yeah.
stereos, stuff like that. But I got to meet CEOs, Sony, Panasonic, I was, connected with so many great leaders, and Bill himself, many opportunities to spend time on his private jet, flying with him to different
Wow.
places, seeing how he ran a business, a
Right.
business with, I think, 5,000 employees at the time. And
Yeah.
he
And
was
this
in,
was like one of the largest retailers in Canada for furniture and mattresses and TVs and electronics, one of these big stores, right? Everywhere you go, there's the brick, right? That kind
that's
of thing.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. Most people wouldn't know. Yeah. In Canada,
Yeah.
they're quite big. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you started out and you kept going with the company. How long were you with the brick doing
I
various
was there
things?
14 years.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was
great.
there 14 years, and then what had happened is the exposure to these leaders, and, it was such an eye-opening experience for me that I became just absolutely fanatical about learning about leadership. So I started studying books on books on books. I was reading, I had audiobooks in the car. I was I had
Yeah.
books in the bathroom, books next to the bed. I
Yeah.
had audio on my gym at the gym at the headphones, and I was going through like 5, 6, 7 books a week, just
Wow.
at a higher speed, just reading as fast as I could, trying to learn as much as I could about leadership. And then I started to apply everything I learned, or what I learned, and started getting these incredible results at the brick.
Hmm.
And that's,
Wow.
when I started to realize, holy cow, there's something incredible here with what, a great leader can do. And I started to just learn as much as I could, apply, as best as I could. And then I took that and left the brick and started a training company, this company here today. And so we started just training. Just I would go around speaking on leadership, doing workshops on leadership, and we grew pretty fast, to the
Yeah.
point where we couldn't keep up, and that's what got us into the online learning game. Because my favorite quote, my wife, she said, "Your dream is turning into my nightmare. You're never going to
Right.
see your kids grow up," and I'm like, "Ouch." Um,
Ouch.
right, as always. And so we decided to, change, pivot, so that's when we got into online. And my heart is classroom, having those conversations, having those
Right.
robust dialogues. But there's no way I could keep up because with
Yeah.
online, you can train 5,000 people in a day in
Yeah.
10 different languages. You can adapt individually to their learning style, on and on and on. Like the benefits of online were just so obvious and so huge that we said, okay, listen, let's bet the farm, and we did, and got into
About what
online learning.
years were those? So people have a perspective, because you're starting to get into the online business and, your LMS and all of that. What years were you starting to move from your training consulting business to online?
Yeah, so we started in 206, and we got into the online probably 207, 207, late 207, early 208,
Well, that
and
was
then
the
we
financial crisis. Was there some impetus there,
so
budget
so
squeeze or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, not at that time. So this
Okay.
is just before the financial crisis.
Ah,
We launched our e-learning platform. Now we're doing leadership, but we got requested by a few companies to help them with their online stuff in the safety
uh-huh.
world. And we said no, hands down, not a chance. They kept on coming back, and we said, okay, we'll help you just to help you, but it's a side hustle. We'll just get you set up
Yeah.
and you can go. And then
Wow.
2008 was the big change where the leadership at the end of 2008, it was 2008. So late in 2008, the leadership stuff took a dive, a crash, a 45% drop, and the online learning for e-learning for safety went through the roof. It went 300-400% up. Us and all our competitors all just
Wow.
rode the magic carpet for years. It was small, but the
Right.
growth was huge.
I mean, that would be a pivot, right? We were
Yeah.
this and now we're this, different customer, different use case, different competitive set, all of that kind of thing. It sounds a little bit unintentional, right? But then you got whacked on the head from the financial crisis, and then you said, well, safety is a need to have, and leadership is, but the budgets can go away fast. It's a want to have, but it can go away. Was there something else in there that made you move that direction, or did safety turn you on in some way, or you just saw it as a better business opportunity?
Yeah, there's 3 things that hit me, and I still remember this like it was is yesterday. I was at the gym, and I heard grasping here. David Thompson, I think his name was, died, passed away, and he was worth billions of dollars, and nobody had heard of him. And his philosophy was, he was in the print publication business. He would never ever print anything unless it was required reading or a requirement for their job.
Oh,
So that was part one. And I'm like,
yeah.
okay. Part two, James Dyson, right? Like again and again, you read
Mhm.
his biographies, you look at his marketing, you look at his philosophy. And, it's that famous example, right? If you throw 3 tennis balls at somebody, they're not going to catch any. But if you throw them one, the odds of them catching it go up quite a bit. You can only be one thing. You can't be
There you go.
the safety guy and the
Uh-huh.
leadership guy. You got to be
There you
one
go.
thing. So that's echoing through my head. And then the third thing is, if anybody's read The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley, in that it was on and on and on about how non-sexy businesses,
Yes.
paving,
Yes.
contracting, garbage
Right.
hauling, there's less competition, right? The odds of being
Yeah.
successful go
Uh-huh.
up dramatically if you're not fighting in a high competition like nightclubs or car dealerships or anything like that. So safety was non-sexy. Leadership, everybody was trying to be in that leadership guru business.
Yes.
So based on those three things, it was a clear decision. Like it wasn't, there was no,
Okay.
it was like, okay, we're shutting this down today. We're never doing it again. Done. End of story. It was such a clear, closed decision for us.
Well, and you had, somebody came back and said, "Can you do the safety software?" "No." "Can we do it?" "Yeah." And so you had a little experiment off to the side that was starting to move before this. It wasn't like a blank slate. "Oh, leadership's out. What are we going to do now?" But you had something that had traction and pull, I guess. You were getting pulled into it, and it was working. People liked it, I guess. And whatever you had built, did you have your own LMS system, the learning management system that you
No,
built? Because there was
no,
thousands of them. Did you have
no.
an off-the-shelf one? Yeah.
Yeah. It was an idea we were contemplating. And I hate to admit this publicly, but I was out golfing with a good friend, my neighbor, 2 doors down, Scott. And I was pitching my idea to him just,
Yeah.
as a sounding board to say, what, I'm thinking of developing an online LMS. I can't find anything out there that, really nails the three things I want: high quality, high impact video, clean, easy delivery, exam engine, and great reporting. And I can't find one company that does all three well. So I'm going to do it myself. And he calls me later that day and he says, "Hey, my boss is in and I want you to pitch your idea to him." And I'm like,
Hmm.
still in my golf shorts and
Right.
slides. And I go on to, and
Yeah.
it's not his boss, it was his boss's boss's boss. I think it was Mark Hagan himself, one of the sons of the founder of the company.
Yeah.
And I had one page, like literally one page. It was a girl in a lab coat with some glasses on, and she had a car beside her that had shown the engine, a 3D graphic of the engine, and she's explaining it in a computer screen. And he said, "What would it cost to build something like this?" And I said, "I don't know, $30,000." And he goes, How long would it take you to build a learning management system like this?" And I said, "I don't know, 90 days." And he goes, "If I give you the money, you'll have it done in 90 days? And I'm like, "Deal." And he
Deal.
puts his
Yes.
hand out to shake mine.
Mhm.
And I go to shake his and I pull it back and I said, "90 days, the clock starts after I get the check." And he goes, "Deal." And we shake on it. And the first
Oh
90
my goodness.
days was just a cluster mess. It was just a
Because you're
mess.
not a developer, you're not a
Not at
technical
all. We
guy,
had to
you're the
hire,
business
and we
side guy.
hired
Yeah,
out of
right.
the UK, and he
Yeah.
subcontracted to another person, and 28 days later, it was a mess.
Yeah.
And so then we gave it to another guy, and he, didn't show up, like, just, you know
Yeah.
and then I got the check. So now the timer started. So
Yes.
I'm 92 days in, I've got the check, I've got 90 days left, and the guy that recommended the last guy that screwed up said, "Hey, this is on me. I'm gonna do it myself.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
program it all on nights and weekends." And he did. He did a fabulous job,
Okay.
launched it, and he got it across the finish line in 88 days. It was
Funny how
insane.
that works. Right, yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, that's amazing here. So, and the opportunity you were seeing, was it for safety in that case?
No,
Like,
when we first built the LMS, it was just learning, just leadership
okay.
learning, just online
So, yeah,
learning, period.
they wanted the
Nothing to
online,
do with safety.
okay, great. And then you got going. So you were, definitely a business side entrepreneur, smelling the opportunity out there, learning what you could. Did you have a technical co-founder at some point to solve this, or no? You just kept finding ways to build it, solving the problem, and selling. And the 30,000 was to pay as a customer, not as an investor, right? So that's customer funding to get it out and this is kind of the practical founder magic. It used to be you couldn't build much software without getting funding and a whole bunch of engineers and all the rest of that, spending a year or two or something. But you could get an LMS up and running that somebody would buy and with your leadership content in 90 days. And that worked and you kept on going here. Was the business always profitable, or did you say, let's go, and then you started writing checks into the business and, living lean and that kind of thing? Or did it kind of fund itself for the most part?
I was, so we had few $100,000 in RSPs and savings, and we put that all in, cashed in all our RSPs. We had
Wow.
bought a house for $100,000. I think we took out a
Yeah.
mortgage for, and then we had a mortgage on it 3 years later or 4 years later for $400,000, all in the business. So we put in 200, 300,000 of our own cash.
Yeah.
We took out a $400,000 mortgage on the house, and then we had a line of credit at the, I think it was TD, for 200,000, and we were in deep to that, and
That
all of
sounds a
those
little
were.
crazy. This practical founders means reasonably crazy. Why was this a reasonable bet to you? You seem like a normal guy here, a rational guy. And, you didn't go and raise money, which I think is an irrational bet. But why did this? And this is a classic founder discussion in the early days. And new founders don't get to hear how people did it, quote in the old days. But why did that make sense to you and your wife, who was in the business?
Yeah, that's interesting. So a couple of things here. So one, we didn't take funding back then because we couldn't get it. Like nobody wanted to give us. We were unproven, right, and made no money. So it was like, yeah, it's cute, Dan, that you have this thing,
Yeah,
but
right.
not a chance. Two, my belief, and I'm fairly optimistic, in general. My belief came from the growth of the customers. Every month, every week, more and more customers are coming to us, hearing about us, and signing up with us. And I see this growth. So I see the growth coming in. Sure, we're not making any money. We're in the red. We're losing. But I see the
Right.
growth. And I know
Right.
it's just a matter of time before it catches up with itself.
Yeah.
And, I can do that math. Now, my wife at the time, bless her soul, like she was, I'm sure, crying herself to sleep at night, looking at the financials from the hard side, looking at how many checks were going out, the numbers, and she was on the hard side of the math, trying to work that, but would never damper my optimism because she needed
Yeah.
me to keep selling and keep bringing in clients and closing deals. So she never wanted to bring that rainy cloud over on that. So for the first probably 10 years, it was a bloodbath. It was just absolute red ink everywhere. I don't know how we treaded water for that long.
So you lived lean, the millionaire next door, right? You didn't buy fancy new cars and
Lean,
fancy
yeah, it doesn't
houses.
even start to describe it. Yeah, yeah. So we
Yeah.
we literally we took, I think, and I'm guessing here, she'd probably know these numbers better than me. We probably lived with zero income for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
Zero. Think zero pay for years. We didn't come from any kind of money, so we had
Yeah.
nothing. And then we were taking we were borrowing from our mortgage to pay our
Yeah.
mortgage
Yeah. Right. Oh,
every month and just going deeper and deeper into the red. And it was to the point where, we couldn't do anything. Like we couldn't, here's how bad it got. We couldn't call a customer in Calgary, which is a 3-hour drive away,
yeah.
unless they had a 1-800 number because we couldn't afford the 5 cents a minute in long distance fees. Like that was just not an option. Where if they don't have a 1-800 number, we're not calling them. That bad.
Yeah. So it was a combination of your burning desire to create a venture for yourself, right? You've seen other people do it, right? You were around billionaires, not tech billionaires, but billionaires, right? And you're saying, well, these are normal humans with extraordinary capabilities and big bets and all that. But you wanted to build something really badly, but you could see kind of a compounding bet, right? Meaning, if the straight line keeps going, if we go at this pace for a while, it'll catch up with itself, right? The flywheel is moving already, which you can see in SaaS. People pay every year and they come back and they stay. And you were seeing the dotted line. Is that fair to say? Or was this just, I think it'll be big and we'll just bet it all?
Yeah, it's funny, right? I don't know, if I push myself back in that time, I don't know how to phrase it
Yeah.
exactly right. So there's a couple of things there. So at that time, when I started the business, there was an awakening kind of moment, a realization. This was big. It hit me big. But I'm reading hundreds of these books, and going through Bill Hewlett, Dave Packard. I'm going
Oh,
through
sure. Yeah.
Sam
Everything.
Walton. I'm going through all these greats, and I'm listening to some of the things they're saying, some of the ways they're thinking, because it's almost like they're inside your head when you're reading the words that
Right.
they put down, so many years ago. And all I'm thinking is, oh my God, they think like me. They're just like me. They're normal
Uh,
people. They're just like me. And that was kind of the first awakening realization to
Mm.
say, they're not superhuman,
Yes,
and
exactly.
two, my thinking was, or their thinking was so aligned with my thinking. And I don't know if I was making it up in my head or not, but that gave me the confidence. Now,
Yeah.
building the business and believing in the future and all that stuff, I don't know what it was. It was just, I never thought there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's none of that thinking ever. It was never about the money. It was just some burning thing inside me that just,
Yeah.
I need to do this. And it wasn't about building a business or getting it all right. It's just
Or it wasn't
every
about the
day I was
safety
just
thing that you fell in love with,
driven.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just driven to do this. And it was
Yeah.
just, I felt like it was just, this is what I'm meant to do.
This podcast is sponsored by my friends at Lighter Capital. In the last 15 years, Lighter Capital has helped over 600 software and SaaS founders secure simple, non-dilutive financing to grow a little faster without giving up any precious equity to investors. I know the Lighter team well, and several bootstrap founders they have helped have already shared their success stories on this podcast. Simple debt funding from Lighter Capital can range from $150,000 up to $10 million with straightforward terms, no personal guarantees, board seats, or covenants, and up to a 4-year payback period. Go to lightercapital.com, that's Lighther capital.com, to apply and get a quick pre-qualification. Then talk with their experienced team to create a practical funding plan to achieve your goals. Now back to our podcast. You got this business off the ground, you start to get more customers, and I guess it's recurring revenue customers, and there's content in there. I guess you're recording things, or they're putting their content in the LMS, and was leadership training. You pivoted to the safety game. Was it feel like a restart when you said it's all about safety, and then there's a new set of competitors, a new set of features, a new homepage and messaging, a new sales pitch, a new pricing? I don't know. Did everything change when you moved to safety, or?
There was a turning point there, and it was an interesting one. So the turning point was we built the learning management, right, system for us, for leadership. We got into the safety stuff. We pivoted, right, and
Yeah.
said, okay, safety is the thing. And if we're going to do this, we made a decision to say, we're all in. Like, we're going to be world class. We want to be leading the game in this. So we put all our efforts into building something great in the safety world. And then again, going back to what I said earlier about building out that full competency classroom, all that stuff, we
Yeah.
started investing in that technology. And we built out a competency management system, very advanced one for its time, as a long time ago. But it was a tool where on your phone you could do pictures, videos, check boxes, fill in, the questions, all for competency. It was 100% designed for competency. So you
Testing
would
whether people knew something and could do it, I guess, or something. Yeah.
a little bit more than that, right? Here's
Okay.
my classic example that I love to use, right? It's like driving a car. You can take a test, but that doesn't mean you know how to drive a car. And then you could drive for years. There's people in the,
Yeah.
seniors, 55, they've been driving for years that shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
And there's kids that are like 17, 18 years old driving Formula One that don't have 50 years of experience driving a car, but they're still the best in the world. So competency is a big thing. How do you measure it? So we wanted to go after that. We wanted to say, okay, you know what? There's people that have taken the training. There's people that have years of experience, but there's also people that are extraordinarily good on it. We wanted to capture that in our digital forms. So we built a competency management engine designed specifically for that, just to capture that.
Wow.
And then when we launched it, to great fanfare, our customers were saying, Dan, it's not very good. And I'm like, ouch. What do you mean? And they're like, well, I'm doing this audit, this, inspection of the workforce, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, Mr. Customer, you're wrong. It's for
All right.
competency. And then I go to the next customer, same story. Dan, it's not very good. I'm trying to do this inspection on this forklift and I can't. And I'm like, oh, Mr. Customer, you're wrong. And we have this saying around the office, if one person says you're a horse, they're crazy. 3 people, conspiracy. 10 people, time to buy a saddle. And after the 10th customer, I was just like, okay, we got to rebuild this thing, right? So we rebuilt the whole competency engine to
Hmm.
be digital forms, to do audits and inspections and everything, make it much more robust. And that was a big pivot point for us.
Well, Dan, I know a little bit about you and all that. And usually when people come out of a business like the furniture business, which is very sales driven, you're selling, let's say, commodity mattresses, those kinds of things, right? It's very a sales culture, right? At retailers like that, right? The sales energy, but you're really a product fanatic. You want to build something great. Your product shows the way, and it's very product led from what I understand here. Would you say you're more of a product builder, right? A solver here and the product leads the way than, let's say, sales driven?
Yeah, you know what? Interesting, because that was actually by design. So it was
Okay.
Steve Jobs, right? When he
Yeah.
first launched the first iTouch. I was in Southern California at a Fry's electronics store. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been to Fry's, but
Oh,
they had
sure.
like
Yeah.
sharks in their lobby,
Oh,
like
yeah. Hovering.
sharks
Yeah.
and crazy. So anyway, I'm at Fry's and, they came out with the iTouch and I was just so amazed, so beside myself with this technology. And I thought to myself, you know what? If you built something this great, you just got to let people know about it and get out of their way and show them how to buy it.
Mm.
You don't have to sell it. You don't have to get, you know what I'm saying? There's no
Yeah.
selling. But I came from a
Yeah.
retail environment with average products, Whirlpool,
Yeah.
Maytag,
Yeah.
average products, but some amazing salespeople. And it was a
Hmm.
sales culture, like everything, the
Yeah.
sales training. It was like,
Yeah.
it was an incredible sales organization. And I thought, I have two choices with my company: sales driven, sales led, product led. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh my God, I'm holding this eye touch in that Fry's store in Southern California.
Hmm.
And I'm like, we're going product. And so we focused 100% on just making the best product in the world and listening to the customers and talking to the customers and watching customers, how they use it, getting their feedback and just making it, and you'd start to see it, right? We get, I don't know, 600,000, feedback loops coming into the business a year, that give us feedback on, what
Yeah.
can we do to improve? That's the big
Right.
question. What can we
Yeah.
do to improve? And there's people love giving advice and feedback on stuff.
Hmm.
You just got to listen. And so
Yeah.
we just kept on seeing that feedback to say, wow, it went from this has got to change, this has got to change, this is bad to this is actually pretty good. And, there's no way to improve this. And this is great. So we
Yeah.
started to
Uh-huh.
see that bar get raised. And that was transformational for us. And that became the driver for the first 10, 12, 15 years of the business.
And you could feel that in the business. The better the product get, the fewer people complained or churned, right?
Right.
And the more they told their friends. Could you see
Right.
that and feel that? Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. It was 60% of our business up to 2 years ago was 100% word of mouth from other clients.
Wow. So very product driven. And what percentage of your 200-ish employees are in the product side of things and engineering and
About
building?
half.
Yeah. So still very, it's a little atypical, right? To be so product driven for a non-technical founder. I mean, you're not a coding founder, right? But that's really amazing. And what I'm hearing from you too is that you kept the user interface, all these millions of people using it and doing courses on there. You kept that so like Apple simple, right? For them watching TV. But there's all this power on the back end. Like that enterprises could use this. Is it a very powerful software? And, because they all have different requirements and compliance and we do it this way and so forth. Do you have those enterprise conversations where they say, do you do this? And you say, yes, here it is. And then you can do this, but can you do this? And you keep showing and eventually they buy, or is it
Yeah,
powerful on the
once
back?
once once a customer sees a demo, like once they see a demo, it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful on the back end, but on the
Yeah.
front end, because we do the technical support, there's a call center downstairs here in this building with
Yeah. Mhm.
there's probably 5 or 6 people right now down there. But there's only like I think 9 people that do the support for 2,000 companies, and they can handle it because every time we get a call, 5 or 10 times of the same issue,
Yeah.
we work like mad to solve it and make it so easy. So for the end user taking a course, filling out a form, that's super easy. It's like you log in and you press start and it just,
Yeah.
it comes to
Yeah.
you or you fill it out or whatever. On the back end, we have a 90-10 rule. If it's,
Mm.
if it's used 90% of the time or should be used 90% of the time, the button's in your face. If it's, used 10% of the time, it's eloquently hidden in a
Yeah.
settings button to say, yes, we can do that. Click settings, and you'll have pages of configure this, adjust this,
Uh-huh.
change this, do this, but you don't need to go there. And they're preset to the standard, which is 80, and I'm guessing here maybe 80% of the customers would just use the standard with a few tweaks. Very seldomly do we go through it. Enterprise clients will go through it step by step to say, this button does this or this.
Yeah.
What do you want it to do?
You've told me this, but I'd like the listeners to hear this. What is your annual churn rate, logo churn, company churn in the business
Yeah,
these
it's
days?
if you go because a lot of companies measure it by month, but it's for us by year. It's less than 1% typically the last
Less
5 years
than 1% per year. And I'm sure
per
customers buy
year.
more every year, right, from you because they have more users and you're probably user-based and so forth. So that's about a record, right? It's almost negative logo churn, revenue churn there.
Very
So
low.
almost everybody stays. So you had a compounding business that didn't have to get crazy about customer acquisition to stay alive because eventually everybody was staying, right? It's really, really, really sticky. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's very, very sticky. And the ones that do leave, the odd ones, so we had to, and we used to laugh because, we'd have a few that, used to leave and we say, okay, no problem. And, we always were very sensitive because we got a lot of customers from our competitors and the competitors were terrible at the time
Oh,
because they were like, oh, you want your data?
yeah.
$20,000. You want your
Yes.
backup reports? $40,000. And they would say, oh, check the contract that you signed. It's going to
Yeah.
cost you $100,000 to leave us or $20,000 or some ridiculous number.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So we were very sensitive to that. So we made sure, hey, if you're leaving us, we'll give you all of the data. We'll help you get it off, and
Yeah.
it'll be very little scar tissue, and the door's always open. And a lot of times, 2-3 years later, we'd get that customer back, and they're like, "I'm so sorry. The grass looked greener. We tried it out. It was
Yeah.
so flashy, but when we got into it, it was just." And they came running back. And then the odd few that don't come back, it's for like we got acquired, we went out of business. Like it's like you just got to feel sorry for these companies that don't make it, right? So it's not like they left us to go to a competitor or left us. Very rare. I don't think I could count on one hand customers that left us that were just unhappy with us for whatever
That's
reason.
awesome. At what point, Dan, did you, your family make a reasonable income, start, let's say, maybe taking a little profit out of the business, right? Payback for those lean years, 10 years of not really paying yourself that much. At what point did you get have enough flywheel in the business and efficiency that, you could pay yourself well?
So the first 10 years was absolute poverty. Then the next 5 years was like super low, maybe minimum wage to, a reasonable salary. Very
Yeah.
little though. Like I think maybe we started at 3 grand a month because that was like where you'd pay zero tax. So we
Yeah.
stayed there for
Okay.
3-4 years. And then we got $60,000-$70,000 a year. And then the last 5 years, we're probably 80% of what market rate would be for, if I was to hire to replace me, probably a little less than market the
So
last
can I
five.
ask about your lifestyle as a family? I do living lean and, people have done this for years. And it's not very common these days, but were you all in on the business and your kids grew up knowing the business was there and we weren't taking trips to Disneyland every 6 months or something like that? Or what was the lifestyle like?
Probably get a different story from the kids. We cut the kids off at like 6 or 7, I think, financially. We said, "Hey, listen, we'll show you how to make money, but we're not gonna give you money," you know?
Okay.
And we
You cut them off at
they
6
they
or
they
7.
worked really hard. Like they had,
Okay, yeah.
they'd walk dogs, they'd babysit, they'd get
Yes,
jobs,
right.
they'd, save
I
their
get
own
it.
money. So we wanted to just teach them about money. It is the last thing we wanted to have in the family is somebody that just didn't understand money or didn't
Yes.
understand how to make it or, couldn't stand on their own 2 feet. So we're very thankful. They're, incredibly good and well off financially in terms of their thinking. To date, still, even though we have a good salary, we've got a very, very nice home.
Yeah.
But still we would never
Paid off
you know,
those mortgages that funded your business and all of that, or,
yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
did, but we took out another one on this
Yeah.
new house. But yeah, no, the car I drive is 2013 Lexus that I bought secondhand. Love that car. We
Very
never spend
practical.
money on clothes. We never spend money on jewelry. We never spend money on, neither of us. We do a lot of travel. So we
Oh,
do
there you go.
probably 10, 12 trips a year, and we've got a very nice house. But outside of that, we don't go out for dinner. We don't go out we save everywhere we can. And it's not saving. It's just we just think that way. To go out
Yeah. Yeah.
for a nice dinner just has no appeal. We'd love to cook at home. Like the quality of the food at home and stuff and being at
Yeah.
home is just so nice. And what you can buy at Winners is not, it's not Harry Rosen, but it's not really that far off for me anyway. I'm very happy with, everything. And yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
frugal all the way around, but
Yeah.
it's ingrained.
Yeah, you've habituated yourself to that. So it's a little difficult because you have a valuable asset, well, approaching 20 million US in ARR and very sticky business, right? It's a very valuable business. And if you could sell it and cash in, like a lot of folks would get halfway through the journey, as you described it, and say, I wanted my prize now or a piece of my prize now. But you've gone 20 years, holding off on all of that. Do you envision that there's a piece of the prize or selling the business prize, or taking profits out, exiting a little bit every year, as Jason Fried says? Do you envision there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or something like that? How do you think about that?
Yeah, no, good. Yeah, we are exiting. So we're going to do three stages. So
Okay.
one is 20%. We're going to market right now. So just over the next, say, 4 or 5
So you'll sell
weeks.
a piece of your business to get some secondary for the founders. Yeah.
Yeah. So 20% goes out now over the next 2, 3 months. In 3 years, we should be well over 50 million in rev in 3 years, and then we'll sell control. So that'll be 51% or more
Okay.
of
So
the
you're
business at that
starting the
time.
process, right?
Huh?
You're starting the process,
Yeah.
exiting
And then
in
and then
in stages. Yeah.
5 years we'd sell everything and be completely out.
And so what does it look like now? You've hired a banker and you're
Yeah.
interviewing people that will want to invest in your business, take a piece of it, not control of your business. Is this growth equity typical at this stage kind of thing?
Not
Great.
growth equity. We got lots of cash.
Okay.
It's more secondary capital. But yeah, it's
Okay.
we hired Peak Technology Partners. They've been
Okay.
phenomenal to work with. Contracted them maybe 6 months ago. They helped us kind of get all our numbers straight. They went to
Yeah.
market, built the pitch deck, the sims, everything, and then now just in the final stages of having those meetings, in-person meetings with the investors that are very interested. So we've got some in-person meetings here in the next week, and then we've got some fireside chats, I guess they call them,
Okay. Yeah.
coming up later this week, and some stuff early in the new year, and then
Okay.
yeah, we go to LOIs, I guess, later next month.
Well, that's a little different, right? After all these years, you'll have a little board, somebody, little co-owner of the business here, and you got to keep moving the business forward through all of the phases there. So that'll be a little different for you. Do you imagine life in the business will change as you maybe push a little bit harder on growth, or maybe your senior management changes, or what else will change in your business in the next phase?
Yeah, we actually just hired a COO to help
Okay.
run the day-to-day. So Sean starts in March 1st. So we've got that coming soon. We just hired about 2 weeks ago, VP of Sales and Marketing with tons and tons of growth experience. Both of these gentlemen come with an extraordinary resume of growth experience. So we're onboarding them as we speak to get them up to, have all the knowledge that they need to get
Yeah.
get going. And then yeah, we will continue to fill in those gaps and build out the executive function. So right now as a company, we have a lot of great people, but we don't have a lot of senior management. Like we have some
Hmm.
good team leads, and we have some, when you have great people, you don't need management for them.
Right.
But we do need at this point an executive team, and we don't have a strong one yet. So
Okay.
Sean's
Well,
first priority will to be built to build out that executive function, to start getting results for the company, and start moving the company a little faster in terms of its growth potential.
What needs to happen for you to double the business, right? This is, if you're 2.5 million getting to 5, there's evolutions and changing, but you're 25 million getting to 50 million. It's a huge market, obviously. Is it just getting better at everything, or do you need to do something big that has leverage, like whatever, expand in the US or Europe, or buy somebody, or add a new channel? I know you have some resellers out there, and double down on something else. What big thing needs to change between where you are and 50 million?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, we'll probably get to 50 million in our sleep, just
Okay, so it's
growing the way
okay.
we're growing. And it's just a matter of time. It'll probably be 3 years, 4 years. We'll get there. If we change nothing, we'll get there by ourselves, right? So to get to 50 million, we wouldn't
Isn't
really
that
need to change
amazing? I mean,
anything.
like, this is the compounding practical. If you're not losing customers and they're more drifting in, and you're getting bigger customers all the time, it's just gonna keep going. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
that's right.
that being said, we could probably grow a lot faster and a lot stronger. So one, if we have that executive team that has that
Yeah,
knowledge, right? So one of the things I found is, and this was interesting, when I first started getting calls from private equity, because
yeah.
they would call once a month back when we were at 5 million. And then it got to a point where they were calling daily. I'd ask the question, well, if you bought us, what would you do? And the
Yes,
guy just said to
yeah,
me straight up, he said, well, Dan, you're probably got one person in sales. It's probably you. You probably got
yeah,
0 people in marketing right now. And I'm like,
yeah.
ouch, true. And he goes, yeah, we'd hire a salesperson. We'd add two people to the marketing team. We'd do this, we'd do that. And I'm like, okay, well, I could do that. So I did it.
Yes,
And
yeah,
then, fast forward, a couple years later, all these people are still calling, and we're at, 10 million now. And I'm like, well, what would you do? And they're like, well, Dan, you probably have no documents. You probably have no policies, no procedures, no, mapped ways of scaling. You'll probably need a lot of SOPs, a lot of standard operating procedures. You need a lot of your processes documented so that you can onboard people quickly, because you're going to be hiring a lot of people, and you'll need to do this, you'll need to do this, you'll need to do this. And everything they talked about, I'm like, oh, Jesus, they nailed it. And I'm like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I didn't realize this, you know this, but a lot of people don't know those 5 stages of growth,
Yes,
product
yeah,
market fit, operational excellence. Each one has a different stage. And these guys were just following that rule book. And I
uh-huh,
listened to them and followed it. And that helped me get the jump from 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30. And right now at that $25-30 million stage, it's building out the executive function,
yeah,
hiring the C-level executives, and spending a lot in sales and marketing, right? Right
yeah.
now we spend, like, embarrassingly next to nothing in sales and marketing. And a lot of our competitors are spending $2, $3, $4 million a year in sales and marketing. Some of them, I mean, one of my larger competitors, he was spending $1 million a week, and at a loss. He was losing $1 million a
Those
week.
funded competitors
Those
and the
funded
things they do.
competitors,
Yeah,
right? But he grew. He's now 4 times bigger than me in revenue,
yeah,
right? So he just cracked 100 million, where we're at 25 million, right? Anyway,
right.
so those will be the things that we want to do. So bringing in private equity, bringing in the C-level executives, and creating a large budget for sales and marketing will be that next leap. And that should be able to accelerate our growth much faster. So instead of
Yeah,
10, 12, 15% growth, we should be able to do 40, 50, 60% growth. And that
uh-huh.
compounded over 3 to 5 years is dramatically different.
Very exciting. Wow, that's a big, shift for you to imagining having, investors, and it looks like the same headline, "Edmonton software company raises X amount," right? What we don't hear is it's a small amount for the sufficient company to go do things a little faster, and it's a bigger amount for the founders to say, "We've done this for 20 years. We're taking, we're selling a piece of the company. We'll take this a little bit, the secondary investment for ourselves." We don't get to hear that. Like the bootstrappers that finally get private equity or VC funding, right? It's not all for the business, that happens. So very exciting for you. We'll watch the headlines for what happens there. Are you one of the bigger software companies in Alberta, Calgary, Edmonton? I don't know. Are you kind of the guy they want to put on stage and say, see, we can do it here?
No, because we have, there's a gaming company that's,
Okay.
I think, billion-dollar valuation,
Okay.
Jobber.
Fun.
There's a bunch, right? Because once you get private equity, you're in the news where, I've gone to a bunch of mix and mingle things,
Yeah.
and
And
I
they're
tell
like, who are
people
you?
I
Yeah.
got a
Yeah.
I got a software company that did 25 million last year and 200 people, and they're like, there's no way. I've never heard of you.
Yeah.
Like,
The practical founder
how's that
next door.
even
You don't know they're
possible,
there.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, nobody's really heard of us yet. We're on the, and we like that. We like to keep it
Yeah.
on
It's
the
okay.
down low.
Right.
We've never accepted an award. The magazines have called and said, "Hey, can we put your picture on the cover? We'd love to do this." And I'm like, not a chance, zero
Not a
chance.
chance.
And if you
Interesting.
call anybody, they just laugh. They're like, "Yeah, no, never. You'll never get them on a magazine or a cover."
It
Or,
is one of the
you know.
tricks of trying to collect the stories that are success of the people we don't see. They don't have their name on the building. They're not trying to be in the newspaper. Not getting funding announcements. Is a lot of people don't want to share their stories. It's okay. I'm good. And so we don't get to hear those stories. For every founder I've interviewed, I've talked to 3 or 4 who've done just as much that say, I'm good. I don't need people to know how much I'm worth. And, I don't need to share too much of my story with competitors or whatever. So, Dan, we've gotten this far in our conversation and we haven't talked about AI. Is AI part of your story for your new investors? Is it part of your product story? Is it part of your business story? Is it part of your learning story? How are you thinking about and using AI in this maturing business?
Yeah, interesting enough, a couple of years ago, I can't remember. I was
Yeah.
in Singapore in April. I think it was last year or the year before, and it was a CEO group, peer group, and it was Canada night in one of the
Is this
lounges there.
YPO's an international
Yeah,
conference or
kind
something?
of
Yeah.
similar. It's the
Yeah.
EO,
Right.
version of
EO.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
And anyway, one of the guys, he might have had a couple of drinks. He said he didn't, but he comes up and he's like, "You're in software, AI, you're." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, you're right." And I
Yeah.
went back and I was just like, "Oh, man, you're either gonna get ahead of the curve, you're gonna get passed by the curve, or you're gonna say, 'What the
Yeah.
hell was that?'" Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just, so
So
we
he was
we
looking
we
at you as a normal SaaS company and you weren't very AI focused yet and saying, oh, you're going to get smoked.
yeah. And,
Yeah.
when you got a lot of people, when you have like 5 people, it's different. When you have 50 people or 100 people or 200 people,
Yeah.
it's, it gets harder and harder to move the herd, right?
Yes.
Anyway,
Right.
long story short, go back to the business and I'm like screaming, we got to get on AI. So I flew in a speaker, I said, listen, you got to speak in person about AI. And he was one of those guys that showed all the new technology, what's coming around. And it was like a holy smokes moment to scare people a bit. I saw him in Whistler in a peer group, flew him out, had him speak to our whole group. And then we did a great brainstorming session afterwards. So after we finished the presentation, half the group stuck around to have one-on-one questions with him.
Yeah.
And before he started, he said, "Hey, let's go around. How can you use AI in your business?" And everybody started with these ideas, and in accounting, we can do this, and customer service, we can do that. So we started doing that. So that was kind of the first thing. And then,
Yeah.
we had an AI focus in our morning talks. So we have these Monday morning talks every Monday morning for a half an hour, 30 minutes. We go through what's getting done, what did we achieve, and kudos, right? One of the big things that our company
Mhm.
does is they'll spend half their time just saying, "Hey, just want a special thanks to this person, they
Yeah.
did this
Uh-huh.
and this and this person did this." And it just like is like on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow. But it's so valuable because it's like you really catch what everybody else is doing to help everybody else. So we added AI wins to that to say, okay,
Ah.
let's get your AI breakthroughs, let's celebrate them, let's talk about them. So we incorporated that. Then we hired a dedicated person for AI in our company. So that's all they are, is an AI adoption specialist. They are very AI techno savvy and they just go from department to department to department to say, okay, what are you doing? Let me see the work. What's the work? Oh my God, here, Claude. Do,
Do
do, do,
this,
do,
do
do.
this, do that. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Automate. Oh, here, just use this spreadsheet and you can turn on a chat GBT and you can just talk to it and get everything you need. And oh my God, we can automate this in marketing. We can automate this in sales. We can do this. So she has been amazing. and she's been helping, revolutionize our business with that. And then, a few of our younger programmers started playing with some AI stuff, and they would develop a proof of concept. And it was just like, so we used
Yeah.
to manually copy and paste from a PDF and put it into our form builder to create a form. And they're like, hey, I
Right.
wonder if I can just drop it into ChatGPT, send it to it, and say, hey, here's what the code looks like on my side. Can you make it look like this and write all the code for it if I give you the PDF? So we dropped a PDF in, it sent back the code. And within, I think, 2 days, maybe less, he had a proof of concept in our system where you could drop a PDF in and it would build it would build the online version of that form for you in
How long did that
seconds.
take your onboarding or your customers to take their long form 20, 50 question or whatever? I don't know.
It would
It's
take
like
3 to 5
workbook.
hours minimum, and now they
Right.
do it in 45 seconds with a drag and
Yes.
drop, and then we
There
just
we go.
upgraded from, I gotta say, ChatGPT to Claude, and it
Yeah.
went from 3 pages were possible to 25 pages are now possible
Wow.
using that, and much more detail. And here's the interesting part, they just upgraded it again, and in the background, in the PDF, there's formulas, or it would say, in this field, add fields 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Huh?
Well, it would write the code in our system to do the math in our
Yeah.
system and say,
Yeah.
hey, these 3 fields populate the total here. And it would do stuff like that without
Magic.
us even asking. So we've had a ton of breakthroughs now where, our playbooks, our course builder, our form builder, like they're all
Oh,
AI
right.
powered now. And it's like
Wow.
breakthroughs, like huge breakthroughs for us.
What does that mean to your business? You're getting more efficient. Does that mean that you could double your revenues and not double your team? Or does that
Yeah,
mean you're
easily.
going to compete better
Yeah.
for,
We might add
against competitors?
10%.
Okay.
Yeah. We might
Yeah.
add 10% to our people complement and double our business easily.
There we go. Okay. And are your competitors shouting AI and doing cool things, or are you guys ahead of the game?
So here's the thing, the big ones, not so much. They're so slow to move and they're so big and it would take them so long. But some of these younger players with 5, 6 people,
Okay. Here we go.
they're moving quick. They're like,
Yeah.
we don't care about the compliance, security, privacy data. Let's just make some
Let it
real
rip.
cool stuff happen with AI. And they're the ones I'm scared about, right? Because they don't have
Yeah.
the restraints to say, oh, you've
That's
got to
right.
go through 50,000 layers of approval to get this new AI feature built, right? We're kind of in the middle where we
Yeah.
can push the envelope and still create, make sure it still aligns to our philosophy on privacy, security, and our compliance side. But we can push the envelope. The big companies, they can't. But the small
Yeah.
companies, they don't even care. They're just like,
Yeah.
let's make some cool stuff happen and figure it out later.
Well, that's amazing. And as you said, you got the kick in the pants from being part of a peer group and an organization of another founder saying, come on, get with it and hurry up, before you get smoked there. You're let's say, a fanatic learner, right? With books and podcasts and audiobooks and peer groups and things like that. How do you learn from peer groups? You're part of the Practical Founders peer group, our newest group here, but you've been a member of EO and other founder groups before. What is it about peer groups that you love and you can learn from?
I love the thinking, right? So that's the biggest part is, when I start saying, here's what I'm thinking, here's what I'm doing, and these guys or the girls jump in and go, I would do this, I wouldn't do this. And I'm like, that's what I said. So it kind of helps me,
Yeah.
because I might say something here with the management team and they're like, oh, Dan, that's not good. This is not good. And I go back with the other
Oh,
owners and they're like, no, they're on crack. You got to do
yeah.
this. And it doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while. So it helps me align my thinking to say, okay, sometimes, I'm on something or sometimes I'm on to something, as Dan Martell would say, and I got to figure out which, right? So these peer groups help for that. Part 2, I was in a meeting, I think it was tech a tech group years ago.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I got to open up in the US. I got to open up an office down there and set up a corporation. And right away, 16 people in the meeting. And they're like, oh, here's the best law firm at really reasonably priced. You open up in Delaware. You got to incorporate here. You got to do this. You need insurance for this. You need to do this here. Here's the way you do this. Here's how you set up. You need da. And I couldn't take notes fast enough. And I got like probably a year of information in like probably 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So powerful, right? To get that clarity on that. And then the third thing I find with peer groups is it's lonely, right? Like it's when you're at the top, you can't have a lot of friends, that because you don't want to hurt feelings, because you got to make tough decisions that some people aren't going to like. And you've got to be that guy that, honestly, there's days I can sit in the lunchroom and, if I sit by myself, nobody will come sit near me.
Yeah,
right?
that's funny.
60 people will come sit down, and it's like there's this big gap around me because, and that's fine.
The boss.
Right? But, I've got to make the best decisions for the whole team and the company and the customers. I got to think not what's good for me, but what's good for everybody. And sometimes that, will ruffle feathers or not sit well with some of the team. And I got to be okay with that, right? So having a peer group really helps with that. Right? Because you can jump on the phone, you can call somebody and say, hey, listen, here's what I'm going through. And they're like, oh, dude, I was in the same situation a week ago or a year ago or 2 years ago. And here's what I went through. But I love it for that.
That's awesome. All right, Dan, you're a wise guy. You've been in business a long time. You've read a lot of books. You're a collector of practical wisdom, and you've had a lot of lessons. What is the most typical advice you give to bootstrap software founders who know the answer isn't get outside funding first? What is the most typical advice for those founders starting out that are in revenue and trying to get to their first 3 or 5 or 10 million? What's a bit of advice you could share?
Yeah, for me, I think the reading part helped me. Like that changed the trajectory. Describe it mentally. It's for those old people in the room. It's like when you take a penny, put a piece of paper over it, and you take the pencil and you go back and forth quickly with the lines, and you see that picture of the penny, piece of paper, right? And that's what I feel is happening when I read all those books. Every one of those books is a little scribble. And if I read enough of them, I get such a clear picture of where I need to go in the future that my decisions, even when I was young, it was like, oh no, we have to go this way. It was so crystal clear. I never lost sleep or never had to tumble or worry or this or that. It was just, oh my God, that's what happened to Phil Knight at Nike, or that's what Steve Jobs went through when he first got into, Next computers. And that's and it was like 3 or 4 examples. And I'm like, yeah, we got to go this way. Pivot right, get out of this. And those decisions, that helped him immensely. And then 2, find peer groups. One of the things, even if it's not a peer group, one of the things I used to love to do is I would just reach out to successful people and just ask them, like I would call up people, just out of the blue. I'd email people out of the blue, like, multimillionaires, billionaires. And I just say, I need some advice. I've got this. And I tell you, successful people are so willing to help. Like it's insane. It's an exaggerated story. It's a true story, but it really exaggerates the point. I'm in Nashville. I saw this guy speak, Joe Scarlett, and he was the guy that created, grew Tractor Supply in the U.S. from 80 stores to 2,000 stores, from 80 million or 90 million to
down the street.
Almost $2 billion, right? And he was just amazing. Couldn't take notes fast enough. And I called him to say, hey, would you come up to that event I mentioned in Whistler? Could you come up and be a keynote at the Whistler event and for our peer group, the EO peer group? And he goes, what's Whistler? A grumpy old voice in it. I said, well, it's like Banff. Oh, I love that place. I love Banff. Okay. What's this EO junk? And I said, well, it's, million, it's people that started, they got to have $1 million company, $1.2 million, in sales, and they got to be the founder and the owner, and, it's a good bunch, and, this and that. And he says, okay, what are the dates? And I gave him the dates, and he's like, okay, mark me in. And I'm like, well, Joe, hold on. I don't know if I can afford you. And he goes, what? What are you talking about? And I said, Joe, I don't know how much your fees are for speaking. And he goes, I don't charge for speaking. And I'm like, what?
You're in.
And he goes, what about the flights? You said your wife has to come. And what about meals? And he goes, just buy me a glass of wine and a dinner and, we'll call it even. And I'm like, what? But successful people are like that. They love to give back.
Yes.
And I tell you, it's the greatest feeling. Like that when people call me, students or, people call me to speak or, this, that, I'm like bursting to say, yes, I would love to help you. And people are like that. Successful people love to help.
One founder on the podcast says he's very successful in reaching out and asking for advice. He says he's never been turned down. Can I pick your brain for a minute? I have this very specific problem and you have this experience. If you can relate to them and, not just a vague thing. But it's very powerful. Thanks for that great advice. What a great story, Dan. It's my pleasure working with you. I'm honored to work with you and the other founders in your group. It's going to be a great group. We're going to add to the group this year and fill it up. We'll have a lot of fun together and building the business. It's already moving quite quickly. Thanks for sharing your story on the Practical Founders podcast. Best wishes with your next phase of the company that involves getting some investors and starting to imagine moving out of the business in someday. So you're starting a little process there. I'm sure it'll be successful. Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this week's interview on the Practical Founders podcast. Be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the Practical Founders YouTube channel to keep up with my weekly in-depth interviews with serious software founders who are building valuable software companies without big funding. You can check out my blog, all the podcast episodes, and information about my Practical Founders CEO peer groups at practicalfounders.com. Or message me on LinkedIn if you'd like to connect. See you next week.